Okay, hello. I wanted to just kind of post a quick video that really just talks about this team project. I might elaborate a little bit on some of the things in the instructions, but sometimes, at least I think it's easier to communicate things through voice than through writing. So I want you to read the instructions as well as listen to this. I'll try to keep it as short as possible. But this is a very involved project, and so I just wanted to emphasize a few points that should help you get off to a good start and um, stay focused, stay on track, and do well. So um, basically, with this project, the idea for this course is that you're going through for the employee training development, and you're working through the textbook. You're learning some of the concepts, and so in a way, this is kind of, if this were a face-to-face class, we'd call it kind of a flipped classroom, and so in a sense that you're kind of working through learning the definitions and the concepts independently. And then I'm going to be more involved in helping you apply the concepts with a course project. Okay, so with this course project, you either self-selected team members. If you did not, then you have been assigned to a group. So the teams that were assigned students to work with, those who did not self-select, you should have received an email from me with information about your teammates. Here's who you're grouped with. Contact them. Let me know if there's any issues. So that goes for everyone. So if you formed teams earlier in the semester based on common interest, or who you felt you'd be compatible to work with, that's great. Make sure that you are able to reach them still. And you'll notice in this assignment, I tell you there's a performance or peer evaluations required at the end of the semester. Please don't wait until then, though, if there are issues. So if you've already tried to reach out to your teammates and you're having problems hearing back from one or two, now's a good time to let me know, because if there's scheduling issues or communication issues, students haven't started working together yet. So this is a great time to reevaluate, the compatibility of team composition. So if there's a student who you haven't heard from, let me know. I can reach out to that student, and maybe for whatever reason they're scheduling or something's going on, maybe it would make more sense for them to be reassigned with other students who have similar schedules or whatever. So let me know if you're already having issues, or as the progress progresses, like if somebody drops out or says they're going to do something and they don't. Please don't wait till the performance evaluation to comment on that, because it's much harder for me to address issues after the fact, because a lot of times it is miscommunication or things. And so it works much better for all parties involved if you notify me if there's issues, if you're having issues, so that they can be addressed. Either clear up a miscommunication, or come up with some kind of arrangement so that one, individuals that don't contribute aren't getting credit, and that this is an environment where everyone is has the ability to succeed. So please reach out to me and let me know if you have communication problems now or throughout the semester. Okay, so this project, a lot of times I've found that students seem to take the approach to group work like divide and conquer. I've heard for sometimes if there's a team with 3 and every other group has 5, then they might feel that, well, I need 5 so the workload can be split evenly. This is not that type of a project necessarily. It's not something that you can look at the instructions and say, you do this, you do that, you do that. So keep that in mind. That I think all groups right now have 4 or 5 students in it. That is good. But even with teams, even especially online, that managing that the group dynamics, keeping everybody engaged and actually collaborating, can get difficult as the group grows. So, the best thing I can say is, just please be a good team member. I mean, if you say you're going to do something, do it. You should be checking your email. I've heard from several students this semester who are taking multiple classes of mine this semester. So if that's you, or if you have multiple classes with other professors who have group projects, figure out a way to manage it, right? Up front. Maybe that's printing out the schedules, creating keeping different things are going to work for different people, but everybody's got a lot going. I know a lot of you are working and have families and full loads and sports, but start off strong and recognize that everybody's got other things going on as well. So prioritize this class. Make time for it. Make time for your team and be a good team member. Okay, so you can go in Canvas. If you're not sure. Let's see, if you're not sure what group you're in, which hopefully you are, go into people. One team put themselves in a student group. You're not supposed to do this. This is not a formal group. It's not gradable. It's just the way the settings are. So everybody should be under a project group. I did confirm that these students were also had put themselves in a project group, so all good. But so you've got your teams. Yours looks different, obviously, because you're a student, so you should only see, I guess, the team that you're in. But there's different ways through Canvas to collaborate. You don't have to use the collaboration tools in Canvas for this project, but make sure you're checking your email regularly. You should be doing that anyway for this class, but until you find out how your team's going to communicate. Okay, so somebody in the group, if you haven't done it already, you can click on this inbox feature right here. All right, and that's going to take you to this screen. New message. You're going to click, these should be all your courses you're taking. There's an option, student groups. You're going to click on your group. It's probably just be your group that you're in. And then you can message individuals or the whole team. Okay, so your first step is to for everybody to review the instructions, listen to this video, make sure you're in communication with everyone, and figure out how you're going to tackle this project in terms of staying in touch and communicating. So some do emails. Most people prefer either GroupMe or texting. You can create a chat group, whatever you want to do. You have access to Microsoft Teams with your student through the Microsoft suite through just being a student at UWF. So you can go into My UWF, and I believe just search Microsoft. I think it's just Microsoft. Office 365 for education. So you can download that. You can collaborate that way so there's lots of different things you can do. So talk to your team. You can use all the PowerPoint, all that stuff through the Office 360 for education as well. But come up with how you're going to work together, okay, and communicate. Okay, so the first step then, once you make contact with your team members, is see what types of jobs you each have, what types of organization connections you have, so on and so forth. So what you're going to do for this project is basically you need to find a contact within an organization. So it can be somebody like a head of HR, it can be a manager, typically, somebody that's got kind of authority, and it's either a management role or higher usually. But you could start with your contact if they, or maybe you work somewhere, or your spouse or your roommate. Anyway, it often helps if you have an inside connection, but what you're going to do is you need to talk to someone, like I said, either in management or human resource management, and you're going to talk to them about their training, their employee training. Okay, so it needs to be somebody that's involved in that. a lot, we've had, COVID changed a lot. And with COVID, a lot of organizations moved their onboarding training or compliance training or continued professional development training to an online format. Okay. And a lot of companies really didn't have the tools or know-how to do that. They were kind of just trying to figure out, okay, we got all these people that got to have these certifications, so we're remaining compliant. They're at home though, so maybe we're going to do a Zoom call, or maybe I'm going to send them stuff to read. But companies have been kind of transitioning and figuring out what the new normal is now that employees a lot are more working remotely and there's different schedulings. A lot of companies realized, hey, maybe online training is the way to go, whatever. But nonetheless, a lot of companies are struggling with either quick fixes they tried to make relating to employee training and development programs, or struggling to just figure out what they need to do. Okay, so your job is to talk to someone within an organization and identify a problem they're having, okay, with relating to employee training. And then as a group, your project is going to be, you're going to design something that will help solve all or part of the organization's project, or I'm sorry, issue, all or part of the organization's problem or issue. Okay, so this project has a lot of it's built. I got a lot of flexibility built in because I have no way to know what organizations you're going to talk to, what the issues they're going to have. And so you need to recognize that there is some vagueness to these instructions, and that's just the nature of the type of assignment. Okay, so I did provide a couple of two examples of projects in the past, so you can kind of get an idea for flexibility and scope. But let's go back before we talk about that. Before you talk to your organization, okay, about what issues they have, it would help for you to have a foundation, okay, of concepts of common issues. So the first two chapters in the employee training and development textbook provides kind of an overview of a lot of things that we'll cover throughout the semester. So review your guided notes for those chapters, and then also review kind of your notes that you've taken so far for if in chapters further than that in the employee training and development book, just to really get an idea for different types of concepts and different issues. Then I also want you to go to the discussion board that was posted the first week of class, where each student was asked to summarize a challenge facing organizations post-COVID relating to employee training and development. So read through the posts that your classmates made as well, and this will give you kind of a foundation of some contemporary issues, so what other companies are struggling with, okay? Because you need to have some knowledge point or some reference of knowledge about the topic before meeting with your organization, okay? But then when you meet with your contact, you really just you want to listen and let them talk. The idea again is for you to learn about issues where they are struggling, or where they would like to push for improvement or innovation, opportunities for growth relating to employee training and development programs. Okay, so the examples I provide, the two examples I provide, they're different. I included them for a reason. So the first example A in the instructions, this group went in and spoke to a company, and the company was struggling. They are still doing, so onboarding is, when employees are hired, they're still doing physical on-site onboarding, new hire, orientation, basically. So when employees would be hired, they would basically register for, there's like I think a 2-day employee onboarding orientation that was presented by in a physical location by a person, a trainer, and they would schedule one. I don't know if they had one every 2 weeks or one every week or whatever, but it was designed for employees. All the employees that were hired within, this region would come to a central location to receive this training. Okay, and so there was a lot of kind of complaints. Employees thought it was long and boring, and they were encouraged. Like, I think they whenever they were hired or offered the job, they tried to um, schedule their start date for after, around this training. So they would go in and learn all this stuff for 2 full days. The employees complained that it was long, it was boring. Some of the management felt like it was not as effective because a lot of these employees were learning about this stuff before they had actually seen it or been in their actual workplace and had any real life exposure to it. So there were some issues. So this particular team recommended that if you're paying somebody to do 2 days of training and it's the same, they're basically regurgitating, they're doing this week after week after week, the same thing. From a cost and efficiency standpoint, it seemed to make sense to record that, to move that on into a different format. But obviously you don't want to sit somebody in front of a video for 16 hours. That's not what the solution is either. So this group found like they could propose something that was cost savings, but also it was the right decision because of the complaints and the issues. They thought that they could revamp the training, and so I talk about kind of what they did, but mainly they looked at the whole 2-day training schedule, so basically lesson plans, and using what they learned from the textbook. They followed those guidelines to think about how it would make sense to break it down into smaller chunks. So I think they outlined, they proposed that instead of 2 full days, that they broke it down into, I think, 16 more bite-sized modules based on different topics. And the idea was that it would be online. They had thought about a website, but then they thought it might make more sense to have them each unit or location have an iPad or a tablet designated for training that would have those the training modules on training modules available. And so part of their project was that they provided to the organization an outline for here's how you should divide your training up into these 16 content-based modules or whatever. So they provided kind of an outline of how to reconfigure the 2 days into their recommendations, which was 16, I think, individual shorter training sessions. So that was one. And then the second thing they did was they actually took one of the 16 modules that they recommended or that they had reconfigured, and they actually prepared that. So they took that and they developed an online interactive training for that content to provide to the organization as an example. Okay, so here we're saying divide it up into 16. Basically, you will create 16 online training modules, and here's an example of the of what the potential is. Here's an example of how we recommend that you do it. Here's it was interactive. It was you clicked through, you watched maybe a video, it had some voiceovers. It had periodic checkpoints where they were asked questions to make sure they were engaged. And the technology they used for this, or the platform, was iSpring's solution. And I am actually in the process, and this is one of the reasons why I've been holding off getting this information out. I'm waiting to hear back from iSpring's solution. I'm trying to get a special kind of trial offer that that you guys can use this semester. Because I really liked what this team did with this software. They have a 14-day trial period, and so the team actually finished it all. They did it with the 14-day trial period, but I don't think that's necessarily realistic or reasonable for me to suggest that unless I can get at least the trial period extended. So be on the lookout for hopefully more information on iSpring's solution. I'm hoping I can get some kind of educator's license or extended trial periods. So that would be something that I will strongly suggest. So if in situations like this example 1, if you're needing to redesign any of the training, I'm going to suggest that you use this iSpring Solutions, assuming that I hear back from them soon with some good news about a promotion that they're going to let us use, hopefully. So more on that. If not, I will talk about some other tools and ways to do this. Okay. And then the third deliverable that the team provided, they created these little training pocket cards, like something printable, like a small little thing that would fit in their wallet or their kind of like a cheat card, in their back pocket, so that they could pull it out and it would remind them of some key things that they needed to remember. Okay, so they came up with, so the idea here is, like, I didn't tell them to do this. So this is the big part of the project, is you figuring out, you coming up with an idea to help. Okay, and so that's what the project proposal is based on. So you'll schedule a meeting with me between weeks 7 and 11 of the semester, and you'll submit a project proposal. Okay, and down here I tell you what I need in the project proposal. Include the name of the organization you're doing, list the team members in your group, describe the issue, outline what your team is going to do. In other words, what deliverables will you create, develop, highlight how your project will contribute to the organization's issue, what software resources will you use, what concepts, best practices from your textbook are most relevant. You discuss challenges, barriers, limitations, whatever, and then include any specific questions or concerns you have for me. So I want to be clear. So, like, the idea here, this is worth, your project proposal in your meeting is worth 100 points towards your overall grade. So I think it's basically a quarter of your project grade. You're not expected to have done any of the stuff you're proposing when we meet. The idea is that this is for you to have a strong understanding of the scope of what you want to do, because I'll talk to you and 90% of the time we'll make modifications to that. So, for example, the first example, that's team project that I used as an example up here, they were, I think, originally going to recreate all the training, and I was like, no, that's way too big of a scope for this project. So I suggested create one, but then you can also provide an outline for them of how, which content would be included, kind of like a map or a lesson plan, which content would be included in each of the revised training sessions. Okay, so that's kind of that first example is kind of your revamping, revising, the content, in this case, taking it online, utilizing technology to make it professional. And in this case, you're adding that in this group added the interactive component where they could track their performance or their learning objectives, so on and so forth. Okay, the second example I've got is something completely different. So with this team, this company, they had actually already transitioned to online training, and they were, if I believe correctly, they were outsourcing this. So they had a company, or not really, they didn't have a company create specific training videos for them, but they were using, like, paying for a subscription to access online training videos that were like for their general HR, so HR practices, sexual harassment, employee conduct, ethical issues, and then also they had a lot of their jobs had state and local or different industry compliance requirements. So, like, maybe they had to do OSHA certification. Maybe some jobs had to do CPR, whatever. Like, so there was different requirements as well. So they used like paid for a subscription with a company where they could access those types of training videos. Okay, and so their issue is that while they had the videos, they were struggling because they were just trying to stay above water. They had no way to really track who was completing them. They had really no way to track, who needed which which ones when, or so there was a lot of their struggle was basically with the execution of or the more around the processes, the administration processes with this training. Okay, so a different kind of issue here. So for this team, they didn't revise any training um, videos, but what they did is they helped implement a system or platform that would kind of make it easier for employees to access the training, and for management or HR to track performance and completion for this training. Okay, so they actually created a Google site through the Google Suite, and I will be posting more information on this because I think this is another another set of resources that can be applied to a lot of your groups. So I really think that most teams would be able to kind of model their project somewhat around one or the other of these examples. So either do you want to do something to update the content, the quality, the presentation, how the training is administered, or do you want to look at kind of the back office side of this? So this group decided that one, employees needed to be able to easily access the documents instead of somebody in HR emailing them links randomly, do this, do that. And then they needed some checkpoints to ensure that it wasn't just an honor system, that they had documentation for completion, especially for the training that's legally required. And they needed help tracking this, managing it, instead of somebody having to always search. Here's an audit, searching through page after page of email trying to find where Sally said she completed this. Now where's this person, did they do it? So they found so worked with them on using Google Suites for this. So they created a Google site where they were a central point for where employees would go to access content. So from the Google site, they would click on various links to access the training videos that the company was using. And then this group also utilized Google Forms. So after the employee finished a particular training video, they were asked a couple of checkpoint questions or questions to confirm that they did in fact read it, or that their knowledge is substantial for that material. And then they had it set up where I think 80% completion if they answered 80% of the questions correctly, and sometimes it was sometimes it was just a couple questions, but they defined what it would be for sufficient completion and set up the Google Forms so that upon completing the Google Forms, it automatically updated a Google Sheet that was restricted to management only. And so they could go in, and it was a running like a list of, it was formatted like a table. So you had lists of all the employees on left hand column. Across the top row was the different trainings. There's indication there of who needed to take what. And then the forms were used to automatically populate when the employees completed, specific requirements or specific trainings. So that was extremely useful for the company as well. So I've got quite a bit of resources that I provided last semester for teams who wanted to use Google Suite. Microsoft also has similar platforms I think they call it Forms, I don't know, but they have the same thing. So you can do a SharePoint site through Microsoft. There's different, it's called something different. I don't think all of the tools through Microsoft are available through the Microsoft 360 membership you get as students. So I would suggest doing the Google Suite unless everybody has access to the the office products through their employer or through this employer. The idea is that for this project, you would present, like this team presented, here's what's possible, here's what we've done, and then that organization can use that Google site, and then down the road, if they decided that they wanted to convert to the Microsoft compatible version, or upgrade to a different standalone platform, that was possible. So you are limited. You don't have the same access to some of the software and resources that many of these companies do. But I think between the Google Suite and the iSpring solutions, you've got some powerful resources that you can use. Okay, so stay tuned. More on that. I will post probably a separate video, separate information. I'll send out an email too. Hopefully this week, to get you more information about the technology that we're going to be able to use. Hopefully the iSpring solutions, but that you shouldn't be waiting on that. You should be talking to your teammates, finding an organization, reviewing the content, meeting with the organization, determining what some of their issues are, brainstorming ideas for what needs to be, what you can do to add value, and then at that time, either if iSpring Solutions and or Google Suites don't provide the resources, then I'll help you find something else that will. So, a couple things. Don't be a stranger. Okay, do not wait. So if you can't find a company, if you are having any issues, do not wait until your mandatory team meeting with me to tell me that. Okay, you need to reach out to me as soon as possible. If you're struggling to move forward, to make progress on this project. Ideally, when we meet for our scheduled, quote unquote, scheduled meeting to review your project proposal, that you've got a great idea on what you're going to do, and it's more or less, like I said, the conversations that we'll have there. I'll be like, well, this really isn't enough. Let's think about adding this, or wow, this is going to be too much. Really helping you narrow down the scope, and then also in those meetings we finalize the deliverables. Here's what I'm expecting. So you need to do a presentation, or you need to write an executive summary. So you'll have, when you finish meeting with me, you'll know exactly what you'll be submitting for your final project. Okay. I will meet, the syllabus says I got to meet with you a minimum of one time. That's again to kind of what we just talked about, but I'm more than happy to meet with teams as much as they need. I can meet with the whole team. I can meet with individuals of the team. I'm here to help. So if you are struggling with what to do, what technology to use, what issues, then we should schedule a meeting prior to the required meeting that needs to happen between week 7 and 11, to go over the project proposal, because you need to meet with me to go over a project proposal. So if you're having issues putting together a proposal for this project, then we need to meet as well for that specifically. Okay, so when you're scheduling a meeting with me, you can go through, click on here, this link, go to my Google Calendar. You'll see appointment slots. If any of those work, you can do that. Honestly, I have minimal slots posted. We're required to post, I think, 5 office hours a week or something. So I tend to post the minimum, because then it gives us more flexibility. My schedule is very flexible. So it does not have to be, we do not have to meet. I'm available a lot outside of those posted hours. However, and this is important, do not just go into the calendar and add a meeting when it's convenient for your team if it's not one of the open appointment slots. I've had students do that before, and it's very frustrating and can cause some issues. So I will meet with you outside of the office hours posted, but you need to take a different approach to schedule that. You will need to send me an email. Okay, and it works best. Send me an email with 2 or 3 times at least that work for your team. Hi, I'm in the performance management class. We would like to propose our a meeting time, does this date at this time or this date at this time work for you? Three's even better. But and then I will say this works or anytime, but we'll find a time and then I'll schedule it onto my calendar. Okay, so your final project is due close to the end of the semester, April 23rd. But this is not something, again, that meeting with me that's set week 7 to 11, that's required to make sure that students, do not procrastinate. So you need to be finding the organization, meeting with them, thinking about what you can do, and then the idea is that we'll meet first, and then you can get the ground running. If this first project, if you work for somebody, you already, you meet with them this week, you know what the issue is, you meet with your team this week, y'all have a great idea, here we go, you got your project proposal finished. More than welcome to, we can meet before week 7. Most of the time, I don't anticipate many groups being at that stage of completion prior to week 7, so that's why I just have that range. But by all means, don't, if you're ready to meet with me before week 7, let's do it. So just keep that in mind as well. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it there for now. Stay tuned. Again, I'll be posting more information once I'm waiting to find out for sure if the the iSpring Solutions resources is going to work as a tool for you guys. Once I've kind of finalized that, I'll get more information out with probably more videos, training on some resources and technology that you can use to create value for your project. But hopefully you've got enough to get started. Well, you should. And let me know if you run into any speed bumps, have questions, issues, concerns, etc. As you're moving forward, communicating with your team, your organization, identifying the problem, and starting to think about your proposal for your project. All right. Y'all have a great day. Thank you.